In a small, secluded town, surrounded by misty mountains and dense forests, an air of mystery hung heavy. The story begins with the arrival of Elias, a rugged man in his late 30s. He carried a worn satchel, a notebook filled with cryptic notes, and a quiet determination in his eyes. Elias was no ordinary traveler. He was a journalist with a troubled past, drawn to the town by whispers of a tragedy that had occurred 2 decades ago. The tragedy was tied to an abandoned mine on the edge of the eastern forest. Officially, the collapse had been deemed an accident, but rumors swirled of something ancient and unnatural buried within its depths. The townsfolk spoke of whispering shadows that haunted the area, warning outsiders to stay away. Elias, however, was not one to heed such warnings. He had come seeking answers, both for the town and for himself. Elias checked into an old inn run by Clara, an elderly woman with a sharp eye and a stern demeanor. She welcomed him with a curt nod, but quickly warned him about the forest. "That place isn't safe," she said, her voice low and grave. "The shadows there don't like to be disturbed." That night, Elias lay in bed, staring at the symbols etched into the wooden beams of his room. They were faint but deliberate, patterns that seemed both ancient and familiar. The more he looked at them, the more he felt they were trying to tell him something. Just as he began to drift into sleep, faint whispers stirred him awake. He sat up, peering out of the window, and for a fleeting moment, he saw a shadow dart across the moonlit ground. Though unnerved, he told himself it was just his imagination. The next day, Elias began his investigation at the town's archives, an ancient building that seemed to groan under the weight of its history. He sifted through dusty records, old newspapers, and faded photographs. One article caught his eye, a story about a miner who had claimed to hear voices before the collapse. The miner had been dismissed as delusional, but his words resonated with Elias. The shadows know. At the archives, Elias met Amelia, a local teacher in her late 20s. She was initially skeptical of Elias, her guarded demeanor hinting at her own pain. But when he mentioned the mine, her expression changed. Amelia's father had been one of the miners who died in the collapse, but his body had never been found. She admitted that she'd been haunted by dreams of her father calling to her from the shadows. Reluctantly, she agreed to help Elias. That evening, Elias ventured into the eastern forest, ignoring Clara's warnings. The forest was dense and foreboding, with twisted roots and thick undergrowth. The air seemed heavier with each step, and the whispers grew louder as he approached the mine's entrance. The entrance was sealed with rusted iron bars, overgrown with vines, and marked with strange symbols similar to those in his room. The symbols glowed faintly, as if warning him to stay away. As Elias studied them, he felt an intense sensation of being watched, the hairs on the back of his neck rising. When he returned to the inn, Clara confronted him. "You shouldn't have gone there," she said, her voice trembling. "The shadows remember." Elias couldn't shake the feeling that he was onto something. He shared his findings with Amelia, who revealed a story her father had told her before his death. The miners had unearthed a black orb deep within the mine, a relic that seemed to pulsate with life. Some believed it was a source of power, others thought it was a curse. Her father had warned them to leave it buried, but greed had driven them to keep digging. Determined to uncover the truth, Elias and Amelia decided to enter the mine. They returned to the forest under the cover of night, carrying only a flashlight, rope, and a crowbar. Breaking the seal was no easy task, but once inside, the mine swallowed them in a suffocating darkness. The whispers became deafening, echoing off the stone walls, and the air grew cold and stale. As they ventured deeper, they discovered the remains of the miners, their bodies twisted and expressions frozen in terror. The sight was chilling, a grim reminder of what had happened here. The walls of the mine were lined with glowing veins of an unearthly material that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The deeper they went, the stronger the sensation of being watched became. At the heart of the mine, they found the black orb. It hovered slightly above the ground, radiating a faint, eerie light that seemed to shift and flicker like a living thing. The whispers became coherent, fragmented voices pleading for release. The shadows that had been following them coalesced into humanoid forms, blocking their path. The shadows revealed themselves to be the trapped souls of the miners, bound to the orb. Their voices were filled with anguish as they warned Elias and Amelia to leave, claiming that the orb's destruction would unleash a terrible curse. But Elias was resolute. He believed the artifact was the key to freeing the souls and breaking the town's curse. Amelia begged Elias to reconsider, her voice breaking with fear. But Elias, driven by his own past and the memory of his brother, smashed the orb with a mining pick. A surge of energy exploded from the artifact, a blinding light consuming the chamber. The shadows began to dissolve, their whispers fading into peace. However, the mine started collapsing around them. Rocks tumbled, and the air filled with dust. Elias, weakened by the orb's energy, could barely move. Amelia dragged him out just as the entrance caved in behind them. Back in the town, the atmosphere felt lighter. The oppressive gloom that had plagued the area seemed to lift. The townsfolk, once reserved and distant, began to smile and greet each other as if a weight had been lifted from their hearts. Clara, seeing Elias recovering at the inn, gave him a small smile. "You did what no one else could," she said. "The shadows are finally at rest." As Elias prepared to leave, he handed Amelia his brother's notebook, a relic of his own haunted past. "Sometimes the truth is the only thing that sets us free," he said, his voice heavy with meaning. Amelia watched him disappear into the mist, her heart heavy, yet hopeful. She clutched the notebook tightly, a newfound determination in her eyes. In the distance, the forest stood silent, its usual whispers gone. Yet, as the camera pans to the sealed mine entrance, a faint whisper lingers in the air, a reminder that some mysteries are never fully resolved.